Hi there, this is Eshu. I'm the abbot here at Zenwest Buddhist Society. This Living Zen-podcast is just one of the many resources we've created at Zenwest to make Zen practice and training more available and accessible to people all over the world. Instructional videos, printable resources, and much, much more are also available on our website at www.zenwest.ca. If you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me an email at office@zenwest.ca and let me know who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to Zen. Everything we make available in person and online at Zenwest is only possible because of the support of our members and associates, people like you. If the efforts of our community are making a difference in your life, I'd like to invite you to show your support and take part in making it happen by becoming an associate or member of the Zenwest Sangha. You can do this by clicking the Join Us tab on our website at www.zenwest.ca. Thank you for your support, and thanks for listening.
Recently, in a conversation with our residential monastic trainee, Haku, we were talking about a model that's used in sort of adventure camping or outdoor adventuring, in which you kind of do a self-evaluation of where you are in your experience. And it's sort of the image of it is a sort of circles within circles, the central circle being a green circle. And that's kind of your comfort zone. That's where we operate most of our lives. We try to manipulate our environment in our life, frankly, so that we can be as much as possible in our green zone. Things happen from time to time in our lives, unexpected things, and certainly when we're out of doors in the wilderness, things happen that move us outside of our green zone into our yellow zone. The yellow zone in this model is also called the learning zone. It's where we learn things because we're not so comfortable. And then, of course, if we work our way through our yellow zone, we get into the red zone. That's a dangerous place to be, particularly in the woods. But I thought that this model is also particularly good in helping us understand how spiritual practice or Zen practice works. I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of the teaching of the three treasures, which is something that's taught in Buddhism, or the three refuges is another way of expressing it. The refuge of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, or to put it in sort of present terms, having a teacher, practicing according to a particular tradition or teaching, and having a community, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. One of the most important things that we learn when we look at something like adventuring or rock climbing or going out into the outdoors is that going alone, it can be done, but it's kind of dangerous. There are a lot of paths that lead nowhere or worse, and you might not make it back if you go alone. So I think that everybody always feels a little bit more comfortable when you've got someone who can show you the paths that they've walked on before. Somebody who's familiar with the environment. And of course, there is safety, support in numbers. And again, this is just so in our Zen practice. Many people often try to take up a meditation practice on their own, expend a lot of energy sometimes, and it often comes to naught. They get distracted or frustrated, or they come up against an obstacle and they don't have anyone to talk to about it, and they don't have a community that can help them sit through difficulty. So it's important when we're first starting out, whether we're going to go out in the woods or whether we're going to go into the woods of our own self, of our own nature, that we'd spend some time surrounding ourselves or immersing ourselves or exploring what resources are around us. This event tonight, this Tuesday sit, is such a resource. This is from my perspective, from my seat, this is a very green zone opportunity. And I realize that that's from my seat. For many people, this is way into the yellow zone to come out to this weird event at the chapel with these dudes in robes and all this kind of stuff. But it's an opportunity for you to explore, to test the water, to see if it's something that you can trust. Trust is important. One of the mistakes that I think that people often make in meditation practice is that what they try to do is to make meditation into a green zone practice. Meditation is something that should only happen when we're in our green zone. Meditation is only of value when it brings us into a green zone or when we come to it in a green zone. We all want to be happy, loving, compassionate, peaceful Buddhas. And when our bellies are full, and when our backs are comfortable, and when we're well rested and well watered, generally it's much easier to be a nice person. To be in harmony with that voice of wisdom and compassion that resides within each of us. In Buddhism, this voice or this aspect of ourselves is called Buddha nature. And as a practice, our aspiration in practice is to more and more fully embody, more and more fully manifest that Buddha nature. Our Buddha nature is this perspective which recognizes that all of us together, all of this vast cosmos acting together, is one. And I think when we're comfortable, happy, fed, rested, in a safe environment, surrounded by people that we love, it's a much easier place to see this, to experience it, to feel it. But we have this other aspect, which is primarily concerned with selfness. Our own preservation at all expense, ensuring that we have enough to satisfy ourselves and maybe just a little bit more. This in Buddhism is called Mara. And Buddha nature and Mara nature are these two aspects of ourselves. The reason that the yellow zone is such a learning place is because there's still some stability in our yellow zone. But both Buddha and Mara show up for the party. And this is where those three refuges come into play so strongly. Because practice, as practice, is not intended to keep us or to put us into the green zone, but it's actually to press us, to squeeze us into our learning zone, into the yellow zone, to put us on edge. When you're doing something like a Tuesday evening, we just really like to sort of touch the yellow zone. We have some rules here. The Jikijitsu makes some corrections. Place your hands like this and sit up straight and don't breathe loudly and walk in step and all this kind of stuff. But the Jikijitsu here does it in a very kind way. But even those simple guidelines, even simple acts like sitting still, walking in step, we don't like them. We don't like to be told what to do. We want to do things our own way. We're happy and peaceful and cheerful and compassionate when we get to do things our way, when we're in our own little space, with our own stuff, doing things our way. So when we come to this Tuesday night, we're pushed a little bit into our yellow zone. And the impact of this is profound, even for a few minutes, an hour, just to be pressed up against the stuff that makes us uncomfortable, opens up a vista, opens up a perspective on who we are, what we are, that can transform our life. Haku, for example, has stepped into residential monastic training at Zenwest. And really the commitment is to step wholeheartedly into the yellow zone. And if anything, pressing towards red. My job as a teacher is to watch this and is to act as a boundary so that things don't get too red, but also so that things don't get too green either. This is, I think, what we want in a guide when we go to into the wilderness. We want somebody who's going to challenge us, but not break us. We want somebody who's going to push us to our limit, but not beyond. And so there has to be a tremendous amount of trust. In truth, there has to be a certain amount of love, but not like a personal love, like, oh, darling, but more like the love of a mother for her child. An unconditional, unconditioned love, which wants only to see the full potential of that student, that traveler, that child realized. The truth is, if we are practicing sincerely, we have a tremendous opportunity in investigating this yellow zone. There are aspects of ourselves, of our behaviors, of our habits, of our preferences that remain completely under the surface so long as we are in our green zone. We can think we're doing just fine. We can think we're tremendously awake and spiritual and compassionate and kind. But then, inevitably, something happens in our life that presses us immediately into our yellow zone, or even into the red zone. And when we reach this place, the Buddha hides himself, and Mara takes over the show. We act, react, and behave in ways which are incomprehensible to not only to others, but even to ourselves. We don't know where that came from. We don't know because we've been blinded just by living in the green zone of our lives. Recently, I've witnessed several very long-term, very experienced practitioners through different circumstances in their life pressed into red zones. It's not always a tragedy that draws us into the red zone. Desire for something wonderful can drag us into places where we're off balance, where we're unfamiliar, where we're inexperienced. And we can behave entirely out of desire for self. This is where it's most important to be supported, to have a relationship, to be in community. This is where it's most important to have a teacher or a guide that you can ask, that you trust, that you can say, this is what's happening, what's going on. This is why it's important to be engaged with a tradition or a known route, so that you have something to check in with, so that you have some boundaries that can catch you. This is where it's most important to have a community of companions along the way, a sangha. I don't like to use the word friend so much when I'm talking about sangha, particularly lately. I think for many people the term friend implies certain things that I think are misguided in the kind of relationship that we should be developing in a sangha. Your teacher, your guide, should be friendly, yes. Should be kind, yes. Your fellow practitioner should be friendly and kind, yes. But as a community of practice, as a community of awakening, our practice is to support one another in this act, in this engagement with the practice of awakening. Our companions should not be afraid or intimidated to say, stop, wait, don't. This is the strength of these refuges. This is the strength of these treasures. This is why they're called treasures in our tradition. This is so unfamiliar and foreign, I think, to many people in our culture. We're so obsessed with, how many friends we have on our friends list that we end up with no companions, no support, no guidance, no one to lean on. We go rock climbing without anyone to belay. And when this happens in a spiritual practice, we end up making very serious mistakes and hurting many people. So, what I really want to offer and invite each and every one of you is to go on an adventure, I guess. Go on an adventure through Zen practice. Maybe this is the place for you. Maybe I am a guide that you can trust. Maybe this is a group of traveling companions that you can lean on. I don't know. You have to find that out for yourself. You have to do the work and investigate. Maybe this is a teaching that can support you and help you. For myself, I have found that this is the place. These are the people. This is the teaching. But know that we're not going to stay in our comfort zone. We're not going to stay in the green place. We're going to press long and deep into our yellow zones. We're going to turn over the compost that rests inside of us and reveal all of the ugly bits that we don't want to see anymore. And we're going to do it in the company of others, with the support of others. We're not hiding anymore. We're not running away anymore. We're not avoiding anymore. I can say after nearly 20 years of practice that there is no adventure that is more worthwhile. So I hope that you'll join me. Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.